Hello, I'm Chris Williams, and today we're going to be reviewing an independent comic book from Image. We're going to be reviewing Ecellence. The writer is Brandon Thomas, and the art is by Carrie Randolph. The cover was done by Carrie Randolph and Emilio Lopez. And the cover is good. It's not a great cover, it just shows various things that has happened in our main character's life. His father and mother, his training to be a wizard, and the council and the test that enabled him to become a wizard. And all in all, it's a good cover. The artwork is good, just good, but it's better than some of the artwork I've seen from Marvel lately, so I'll give it that much. I'm really enjoying it. It's colored very well as well, and the main character looks like he's going to be a very tough customer. Now, we begin at the Aegis, the Column 1 in New York City, apparently. As far as I can tell, I don't think any human knows that wizards exist or can even see that building. We see our main character being born. And the delivery looks like it is going well. Apparently, they're also using magic to cut the umbilical cord. Okay, you don't always need magic to do everything when you have wizards or something like that. Now, this comic the best parts about it is the relationship between the father and the son. Here we see the father who's just got his son. The father names him Spencer, his full name being Spencer Dales. Now his father grabs him and takes him away, and he proclaims to the world, to all those who are able to see it, apparently, either this is magic, I think it is, it's a boy. And he holds him up for every other magic user in the world to see. Now, I'm not so sure. Maybe every magic user is or is not an African-American man or of African descent. I'm not quite sure. As far as I know, all magic users in this comic book are supposed to be of African descent. There might be others, but we haven't seen them yet. And they're ruled by a council. Now, the father, even though he's been training his son, is disappointed in him because he looks like his son hasn't displayed any overt displays or feats of magic. And he's worried about him, that he might just be a failure. And that it would look bad and deface their family's pride for him to be the first Dales in generations or ever to be a complete failure at magic. Now, we can see Spencer getting frustrated, trying to use magic, only a few sparks at best coming out, while his father's protege, an older male, gets all his attention from his father. The other guys in the background, both men and women, don't even really matter in this comic book. All we can see is that Spencer is getting immensely angry that his father won't pay attention to him. And he thinks that because he was getting angry about it, that caused his own magic to become latent. See here? All Spencer can do is start with tears going down his cheeks as his father lavishes his best student with all the phrasing he can give him. And until all that misery and all that rage explodes out of him with the tears running down his face, his magic erupts. It finally manifests. And it manifests wildly. And a huge, gigantic spiral of power that blows the top off the building. And we see his power clashing in green and blue light. And as the school who he'd been attending, where he had been trying to learn the very basics of magic, completely, or at least a big hole blown into it. Spencer is quite angry, and I can understand this. And this is what makes this comic so good. The relationship between the father and the son. Now, this is a good comic book. We can see Spencer's anger, and we can see the power flowing out of him here as he starts staring down his father with his favorite student beside him. And do you see fear in his father or the guy beside him? No. What we find is something surprising. Now, I have to tell you, the artwork here by Gary Randolph is very good. It's good. It's not great artwork. But I will tell you, it's It might be on the same par as some of the SJW stuff I've seen, but this story makes up for it a bit. We find out, and as we move back to the father and his disciple, the father says, "Don't go easy on him. We're not going to ease him into this. Because as his protege said, his son's behind. So he says, break him, break my son. Give me something so I can work with, so I can build him up into a great wizard." And we see a bolt of energy, of mystical power, slamming into Spencer Dale's chest, knocking him down. This, what we've seen, has happened years ago. Years go by, and we see Spencer Dales grow up. We see him eventually become so good, he defeats all of his other rivals, and he gets ready to take the test that will make him into a full-fledged wizard, or at least a magician. And we flash over to something else as well. Something that happened a couple of days later. We see Dale getting a haircut from his Gram. She's saying that stuff about his hair and about how he needs to look good for this test because it'll determine the rest of his life. And he places his trust in her. He also asks for her advice, and she gives it to him. And she's doing a very good job. Now, this lady here I really like, but it just seems that she's the basic old grandmother type you've seen in other comics. So there's nothing new here. Later on, Dale goes before the council to take his test, and they applaud him for coming here and to being ready for it, but not to think he'll get any favors for being a son of one of the council members, but because there's a very good chance he'll fail this test and he'll have to take it again eventually if he ever wants to try and become a full-fledged mage or wizard, whatever they're calling themselves. But it's a good comic book, and I'm really enjoying this series. Now, Spencer's test. He has to get to his the guy he's been assigned to protect. Well, the guy, or guys, one of them being the guy who was the disciple of his father, try and stop him. See, this is all to prepare him for days ahead if he becomes a full mage, if he has to deal with other wizards who've gone bad, or other wizards who are trying to kill or otherwise make his charge either killed or take him off the path they set for him. Here we see him running away from him, but using his magic to cause catastrophe to those who are trying to chase him down and stop him. He finally meets his charge, a guy who's about to propose marriage to his girlfriend. See, what's he there to do is make sure he has enough nerve to be able to ask her to marry him, because he's apparently one of the protected bloodlines. For some odd reason, they protect people, but especially people who are supposed to do something or are part of a bloodline and supposed to have kids that are supposed to be help the future. Well, eventually those two guys try to stop him. They bring Spitzer down. But guess what? He asked advice from his grandmother, and she told him, use your magic. Don't rely on just the wand for your power. Use your magic without the wand. So he does that. He causes something that causes an explosion, and this explosion causes the guy to make sure he rescues his girlfriend. The disaster he just caused that could have cost her life, he'll make sure the guy will never let her out of his sight again. So he asks her to marry him, and he succeeds in his test. And yes, you can see that's sort of a very bad thing to do it, but they didn't give parameters on how the test was supposed to go down. So Spencer and his father hug, and knowing that he's passed his test and done it, and it's a good comic, and I'm really enjoying it. But guess what happens? At the very end, we find out that his grandmother has been with a heart attack, apparently. Her time is near. Apparently she lived long enough, or well, I guess not long enough, since she appears to be in a coma now, all to see her grandson become a mage. And all Spencer and his father can do is mope and lament the fact that Spencer's grandmother won't be with them for that much longer. When Spencer says we could use our magic to save her, and his father says don't do anything. We might have magic. We're not supposed to use our magic to save ourselves or to use it to give ourselves glory and riches. when Spencer storms off, determined to do something to save his grandmother, and this is how the issue ends. This has been a good issue, and far better than this is the best work I've seen from these creators. There are a couple of African-American men who tried to break into the comic market. Their last few efforts have been kind of bad, and some of them have even been SJW, so that's especially bad. But this comic, Ecellence, with its main character, Spencer, is a good comic book, and I recommend it. Now, if you like this review, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. If you're not subscribed but you're watching my videos, please subscribe. I want you to hit that bell so you can get more notifications on my videos that I make every day. Now, also, hit that like button and leave some comments down below. And remember, keep checking back in future videos for more information on my own independent comic book, Scumdogs. I want you guys to be there when I release it. I want you guys there to read it. It'll be a good read. I'm Chris Williams, and I'm signing out.